Hey guys, it's Chris and welcome back to another Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video. More like a idea slash theory, not that I'm fully behind it, to see if we can figure out what the hell the big twist is with the Night King. We're supposed to have 3 big twists in this story, at least on the show. The first one was supposed to be the Hodor story, how Willis became Hodor. Obviously that was a big reveal. The second was supposed to be the Shireen burning. The third one has to happen in Season 8 and it has to be related to the Night King. We cannot have a story just end where he comes down and wants to kill everybody and we never find out his motivations. And I started thinking about the vision the Hound had in Season 7 where he saw the wall, he saw Eastwatch, he saw the mountain shaped like an arrowhead, and it essentially told him, and therefore Jon and the whole entire crew, exactly where to go up north to capture that white. And then of course in episode 6, we saw that it was in fact a damn dragon trap. So I started thinking, has the Night King been playing Puppet Master this entire time? Is the Night King the one actually sending out visions through the flames? Okay, so I know that sounds a little bit tinfoily here, but hear me out and let me just throw this out there. And again, this is not something I absolutely believe. And we got to thinking back to the video I did on Varys and what he heard in the flames. And of course you have people like Melisandre. But then you also see regular people who have these visions apparently now. The Hound, for example, in Season 7. We saw Stannis in an earlier season. He saw a vision as well, and that's what convinced him to go up north and try to save the realm before he ruled it. So that tells you that regular people can also see these visions without being trained, so to speak, in the religion of R'hllor or the Red God. Now we also have other people who can see visions, etc. in the books and show. For example, you have wood witches, like you had Maggie the Frog and the prophecy with Cersei, but that was a little bit different. She tasted her blood, and that was really a specific prophecy to her. But then again, if you think about it, it did shape who Cersei would become. You also have people in the books like the Ghost of Highheart, for example. She does see visions, but in a different way. It doesn't say she looks in the fire and sees them. And by the way, in the books, the Ghost of Highheart is a character who speaks to the Brotherhood without banners, specifically Thoros and Beric, and that's when Arya was with him as well in the books. And Melisandre kind of took her role in a sense because she's the one who senses a darkness in Arya in the books. But regardless, she's the one who, in exchange for a song, specifically a song called Jenny's Song, because she was friends with a character named Jenny of Oldstones, and they actually mentioned her in Season 7 when the Maesters were making fun of Sam. And a lot of people think the Ghost of Highheart or Jenny of Oldstones or both, or perhaps descendants of Children of the Forest. She gives the Brotherhood without banners these visions so they'll know what's going on and what to do about it. But it's really important to point out that the Ghost of Highheart specifically says, "The old gods will not let me sleep," when she talks about these visions to the Brotherhood without banners in the books. And of course we know who the old gods actually are. That's people like Bloodraven and now Bran, and of course the Night King as well. I do think that the Night King obviously has Greensight ability because he can see Bran in visions physically. He actually physically touched him and marked him to break into Bloodraven's cave. So this goes back to our idea that he is actually a proto-Stark and was a first man who had this ability as well. And that's possibly why the Children of the Forest chose that first man in the first place to turn into the damn Night King to fight on their behalf. So if you believe that the Night King is actually sending these visions, the way you have to look at it is whatever he sends out has to have an effect on people that would benefit him. In other words, if his goal is to escape the north and break through the wall to get to the God's Eye, the people that receive these visions have to do things to set in motion these events to get these people up to the north, beyond the wall, and eventually Dany comes up with a dragon to try to rescue these people in order to spring this supposed trap we saw in Season 7, in order to get Dany to come up there with a dragon, take one down, and get south of the wall. So let's take the Varys example. Of course, he got cut off root and stem.
Root and stem.
But I think that actually changed his life in a big, big way. I did a separate video on what I thought Varys may have heard in the flames, and I don't think we'll ever find out a definitive answer on that. I don't think even he knows what he heard. He just says specifically that he heard a reply when the sorcerer tried to speak into the flames. So I don't think it's necessarily important to know exactly what he heard, but the point being is that this changed his life, and he started to go on a path of understanding that information was more valuable than the contents of a man's purse. Therefore, he learned the information game. He started to learn how to spy and steal. He grew in power as far as selling information. He made it over to King's Landing and became the master of whispers for Aerys II Targaryen, and of course Robert after him. But of course, early on he got in league with Illyrio to support a Targaryen restoration. In the show, it's specifically Dany. In the books, it is Aegon or Fagon, but that's likely going to change too as far as who he supports. So in other words, what I'm saying is what he saw in the flames those days, regardless of what he actually heard, actually benefited the Night King in a way by him getting in league with Illyrio and supporting Dany as a ruler to get her over to Westeros. And of course, you have to think about why Illyrio gave her dragon eggs in the first place that she would go on to eventually hatch. And of course, now she is in Westeros with those dragons, and we saw the results of that one little incident, kind of like a butterfly effect that happened to Varys a long time ago when he got his shit cut off and tossed into the flames. Now, of course, the biggest fire reader in our story is Melisandre and the rest of the Red Priest, and she actually has a chapter in A Dance with Dragons where she sees many, many visions. And let's take a look at a couple of those and see if it supports the idea that the Night King may be sending these visions. So she does see Jon Snow quite a bit in these visions. She warns Jon Snow of his death before he actually gets killed. She sees daggers in the dark, for example. She knows there's something special about Jon Snow, but she's not sure what it is. She keeps asking her Red God R'hllor to send her visions of Azor Ahai, specifically asking to see Stannis, his chosen one, his chosen king, his instrument of whatever, but all she ever sees is snow, and that's telling you right there that's Jon Snow, of course. Specifically about Jon, she sees him turn from a man to a wolf back to a man again, so I think that right there is going to be his death and resurrection in the books. I think he will warg into ghost in the books while she resurrects him or whatever, and then he will become a man again when he is resurrected and reborn, so to speak. So that has not happened in the books yet, but that just goes to show the importance of Jon Snow and what I think the Night King is reacting to, because you got to think about it, as we said in A Dragon Raised by Wolves, he has to be reacting to something fairly recent. He's had 8,000 years. There's been dragons around this entire time, up to 150 years ago. So he could have tried to set a trap, say, 200 years ago when there were other dragon riders in Westeros, but the difference is Jon Snow wasn't around, so he has to be reacting to something fairly recent. That could also be something around the same time that started Robert's Rebellion, which was the fact that Aerys II Targaryen, Dany's father, actually killed Brandon Stark and Rickard Stark, Ned's father and brother, respectively. Another big vision in the Melisandre chapter in A Dance with Dragons is that she sees Bloodraven and Bran specifically. She sees a wooden man with a pale white face and 1,000 eyes in the flame staring back at her, as well as a boy with a wolf's face who leans his head back and howls. Obviously, this is referring to Bloodraven and Bran. So how do these visions in the flames that Melisandre sees actually benefit the Night King? Well, first of all, she does say that when she sees these characters in the flames, she thinks that it has something to do with the Great Other, because of course, as a religious believer of her lore, she thinks that her God is the God of light and life, so therefore she believes there's an antithesis of that God being the Great Other, and that represents cold and death. And of course, she's seeing Bloodraven and Bran, so therefore in her own mind, she associates Bran and Bloodraven as the enemy, when we do know that they are actually fighting for the side of the living. So that to me is evidence that there are no gods in this story, and I'm sure again we'll never get a definitive answer on that. And of course that is a separate topic altogether, and I do have a separate video on that as well. I'll link that in the description below. But the point being here that it does benefit the Night King in some way. She is now seeing these other people as enemies, although they are technically friends, and also the visions about Jon, where she tries to warn Jon and tries to save Jon, benefits him in the way because he needs Jon to eventually end up north in this trap to bring Dany up there to rescue him, because she wouldn't come otherwise. So Dany will come with dragons to actually rescue him so he can get himself a dragon, which is a magical creature, use his own magic to resurrect Viserion, and of course melt the wall with that blue magic fire. And then of course you do have other examples like the Ghost of High Heart in the books. Now the Ghost of High Heart gives these visions, as I said before, to the Brotherhood Without Banners, and this actually tells them exactly where to go to. Now we've already seen this in the show. We saw them go directly to where they saw the vision, the Hound specifically, and so that benefits the Night King in getting all these people up there. But the Hound, at least in the show, is the one who picked up on the vision as to where to actually go. So he, of course, then tells Jon and company when they meet up at the wall at Eastwatch, and therefore they know exactly where to go to be put in this damn dragon trap. So anyway, you have all these different examples of people seeing these visions. I'm not saying the Night King is necessarily sending these visions directly to individual people. I think it's more like a broadcast where these people can pick these things up and then take action based on those things to ultimately end up in his favor as far as getting Jon and company beyond the wall in this set up dragon trap that would then attract Dany up there so he could get his prize, an undead Viserion, to melt the damn wall. So if you run through all these individual incidents, you can kind of start to put together a puzzle almost as to what the hell is going on and what's eventually going to happen, and end up culminating in the Night King getting through the wall. So anyway, guys, in a nutshell, all these different things do benefit the Night King in some way. Now again, do I believe that the Night King is necessarily sending these visions directly to individual people? No, not really. Do I believe that people seeing things in flames and getting visions and that type of thing is some kind of conduit to see what green seers could see from regular people who don't know magic or are not magical people in the sense of bloodlines being green seers, wargs, etc.? Maybe. But if you do think about all these events and how they've unfolded so far, it's kind of gotten all our main characters in the same place at the same time, and in the case of a dragon trap, in the right place at the right time. So it's a possibility. So it could be in this Song of Ice and Fire that this ice demon is using magic in a way, maybe inadvertently, through fire to get these visions out to people so they will take action and get him what he actually wants. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Is the Night King sending out visions in the flames? Is he the one controlling everything? Or is it just completely separate things that happens to line up the right way? Or do you think that perhaps the visions people see in flames are some kind of conduit to where regular people who believe they're doing it through a god can see into the mind of a green seer, and that's just kind of how everything happened to fall in place? I just want to throw that out there for you guys to kind of chew on and think along with me as to what this big twist has to be. As usual, thank you for all the support, especially you guys on Patreon, and a huge shout out to my executive Patreon smokescreen producers, Lala, Marylin, Bentley, Goska, HoonJive, Horton, Erin, Habig, John, Carey, Anastasia, Jason Landers, DTizSmith, and MJW. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. Also, just to let you know, as far as Patreon goes, I did add some Discord rewards. So we have now our own private Discord server where you guys can get on there and hang out 24/7. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.